All right, like Ralph said, my name is Will Baxter, and I'm Vice President of Operations for Solar Community, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Ralph, and I'm glad all y'all could come today and listen to a not-so-good speaker talk a little bit about solar. I'm in operations, so I don't normally stand up in front of people and give presentations. I was talking about earlier, we usually solve problems in my department. So anyway, so bear with me. Hopefully I'll get in the rhythm here and we'll get going. Again, this is on the Smith & Associates building, who is our parent company. They're the second largest distributor of, I guess what you call computer parts, PC, chips, I don't know. They have a warehouse and they buy and sell computer parts, located here in Houston. So yeah, we'll just jump right into this. So this job here, you can see this is on the roof. It's 120 kilowatts here on the roof, and it's a TPO membrane. Originally it was, I believe it was an asphalt roof, so we came in and had it removed and put down this TPO membrane. The DOE calls it cool roof, what have you. And this meeting's small enough. If y'all have any questions as I'm going forward, I don't mind stopping and answering questions if something's unclear. Which there probably will be. So, anyways, so this is the rooftop array here, and we just move right into it. So again, TPO roof, and so I guess some initial hesitations were when looking at this is so in the foreground here you have a standard racking type system, and could the roof withhold the loading associated with the rack-led system? And so the engineers dug through and decided, yeah, the way the roof is built, it can withstand the 5 pounds per square foot necessary with this system to hold the rack. And if you look there, it's ballasted with active attachments as well. So I think we have like 40 attachments and then 3,000 pounds of ballast to hold it down. And a 10-degree pitch, so the wind loading is lessened a little bit. And if any of y'all build in Houston, you know the difficulties associated with the higher wind loads.
You said there was attachments, so it's physically attached to the roof?
Yes, there's 40-something attachments on the roof, and then again it's ballasted as well. For that combination to get the 5 pounds per square foot necessary. So here's the layout here. At the top is the new meta, and then, so there's three different type of modules here, or 3 different type of PV, and there's also solar thermal here as well that supplies 100% of the building's hot water needs. But at the top is a Lumeta power platform 100-watt module. The middle is a solo power, and there's a combination between a 260-watt and 230-watt module. And the bottom is a Shuko 230 PSO9 typical polycrystalline module. If anybody's interested in, the electrical diagrams, this is one through the Meta. It's a 400-watt module, and you can see there's only 5 in series. Start running into some real voltage issues associated with those higher wattage modules, and especially the next one. That's Shuko. We have 13 in series there. 230-watt module, so voltage and current are fairly easy to handle. Let's see, solo power. This is a thin film module. If anybody's familiar with thin film, they typically run pretty high voltage. I believe the VOC on these thin films is around 9 volts, which is real hot. So we were only able to put, what do we got there, 5 in series here as well, in order to hit the maximum power point tracking of these front-end inverters that they're hooked into. But the beauty of solar is no matter the size, it's all modular. So we did this. I think there's 12 strings per array on the solar power. And we have 2 arrays, and that's about 24 kilowatts. So you can just do this over and over and over. And essentially, your wire and fuses and inverters is about the only thing that gets bigger. So one of the beauties of solar is it's completely modular.
What do you mean by 12 strings?
So here, at the top, it's says 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5. That's a string. And then so moving over to your right, you have a combiner box, and it has That one, I believe, has 12 strings. So 12 of those 5 modules, essentially. So 60 modules are in that combined
Oh,
box.
okay.
And you string them that way because, again, if you look at where it says PV subsystem 3, you have your VOC ratings, which is like, what is it, 476 or something. So, and I don't know, VOC is 548, looks like. Anyways, so with these inverters, you can't go above 600 volts. Otherwise, you let the smoke out essentially on them.
Can you explain what VOC is?
Yeah, so VOC is voltage open circuit. And when the inverter grabs hold, turns on, you have VMP, and that's voltage maximum power. And there's an IV curve associated with the output on a solar panel. And in there, there's a maximum spot where the current and the voltage, are at this point in the IV curve. And typically, it's lower than the VOC. And then you'll see an ISC number, that's the short circuit current. And again, that's higher. If the module is in short, you would read that 3.7 amps. But when the inverter grabs hold of it, and it reads that IV curve, and you see the current maximum power is 3 amps. So in there's, and hope everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with how solar panel works. It's there's 2 conditions for it to make its nameplate rated, and that is temperature is 1, higher temperature, lower voltage, colder temperature, higher voltage, and 2 is the irradiance of the sun, essentially how strong is the sun. So in a lab, they're measured at 1,000 watts per meter squared, and so this is a solar power 210 right there. So in a laboratory setting, this would output 210 watts. And here in Houston, you can see 1,000 watts per meter squared with an irradiance meter, on a good clear day. And so that's where you get the 3.7 amps. ISC is at that 1,000 watts per meter squared.
What was the efficiency of the solar power?
These solar powers, I believe, are 11%. I have some spec sheets in the slideshow, so we can pick them necessary. And I believe there are 6, the cadmium, indium, gallium, diselenide, or something like that. So they do well in low light conditions or poor light conditions. And this one is for the carport, which I haven't shown you pictures of the carport. So there's about a 50-something kilowatt carports, and these are the Sanyo bifacial ones. So they will produce electricity from the underneath part of the module as well. They'll take ambient light or reflected light and actually make electricity. So the nameplate rating of these is, I believe, 195 watts, but under optimum conditions, they'll output about 230 watts. Assuming they can get enough sunlight on the back of the module. Again, that's just how they're strung. And these are little. You have to do your calculations twice for these essentially, because they do. Like I said, the potential is 230 watts, even though the nameplate is 195. So here's part of the spec sheet on the Cooper Beeline Arista racking system. If anybody's familiar with Unistrut, this is pretty much essentially a Unistrut-based rack. It's very fast for these TPO type roofs. We got the rack built in about a day and a half, and then had the modules up in another day, and then wire management essentially took a couple days with this, running strings and interconnecting everything. But all in all, for 30 kilowatts, it moved pretty quick.
Why was this system chosen? Was it easier to deploy, or was it lighter, or what was the reason behind this one?
Part of honestly, the reason this one was chosen is because Cooper office is right next door to Ontario.
Okay.
So, but again, it was brand new, and my understanding is we would use Cooper in the future, as this was fast. I don't know what the price point on it is, but as far as man hours goes, this was pretty fast stuff. And assembly was easy as well.
Did you say earlier that the hotter it gets, the less electricity that it produces?
Yes, sir. The efficiency is reduced.
Is there any thought to having any kind of a heating system built into heat air or heat water?
There are a couple manufacturers that have a combined thermal and PV solution. So on the back of the module, they put essentially a radiator, and they take some of the heat off. I guess it's a heat sink essentially on the back of that module, and then they heat your hot water or heat air to help. I don't know if it increases efficiency so much, but for the electricity side, but you gain efficiencies on capturing that heat.
Very popular in China, or getting more popular in China.
So here's another photo of the Cooper system, and if you look to the bottom left there, you can see one of the attachments. That's a pitch pocket. Because this is a TPO roof, you really don't want to make penetrations in it. The roofer charges an arm and a leg to warranty his penetrations for good reason. It's essentially this TPO roof. You can lay it down and walk away for a really long time. And it's got rubber boots on the Cooper rack to sit on that TPO and not cause any, or they're inert, so they don't cause any acid issues.
They're not fastened, they're just sitting on the roof.
What's that?
The panels just sitting on the roof, they're not fastened to it.
No, right, they are fastened. So there's a you see that on the bottom left there's a black boot. If you go up the rack just a little bit, there's a round circle. That's an active attachment. And that's called a pitch pocket. And so it is a hole essentially filled with tar-like substance. And as you move further up, you can see some ballast blocks. So this is a combination of ballast and active attachment.
There's a previous thing that shows ballast straps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so those aren't screwed into the roof?
No, they're screwed into the top of the rack right there. They're bolted to the rack.
Okay, so the bottom part's not
Do they go through the
attached.
roof to attach them? Or?
No, the ballast strips are not penetrated through the roof at all. You just lay concrete pavers on them essentially, and then they're attached to the racking. So you just add weight. That's all you're doing.
I'm trying to think, well, if a hurricane blew through here, would that create a problem as far as the system lifting off the roof?
Well, it's designed for 110 mile an hour, 3-second burst. And if you do some research, purely ballasted systems after a big wind kind of look like snakes going across the roof. For that issue, they didn't blow off, but they did move around and what have you. So we have, like I said, about 40-something penetrations that are active attachments to the purlins in the roof for that reason. And it's less ballast when you attach. So it was kind of it was a combination or cost-benefit ratio of how many attachments do we want. We know we don't want to really attach in this roof, but we have to do some. So let's make it as few as possible. And so that's what we chose. Here's a spec sheet on the Lumeta PowerPly 400. And this is essentially a big SunTech module that doesn't have any aluminum framing on it. So it's I believe these are monosilicon. And they're flat and they glue to the roof, and they are rated for 193 miles an hour, I believe. Essentially, there's no wind load on them.
Did you have to put an extra adhesive on them, or the self-adhesive on the back of them work fine?
Yes. So there's self-adhesive on the back, but there's about 5 4-inch strips on the back of them. And what we did is we laid a sacrificial barrier down. So we put the new TPO roof on, and then we put a second layer on, and then lay these modules down. In case for some reason, because once they're down, they're down. You can't remove them. They fix themselves. So if for some reason there was an issue, well, we could cut that sacrificial barrier up and remove them or service it or what have you, and then come back with a new sacrificial barrier and lay another module down if you need to. And that way you're not damaging the roof in any way.
With those modules on the back.
Yeah, that's right.